meeting virtually. I'm going to read the statement. Due to the Safer at Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the Human Relations Commission are participating virtually. That being us, all members will vote by a roll call. A member will be recognized, at which time the member will state his or her vote. We have to have this statement, so as we will. And now we're going to have a roll call, and I believe, Tika, you do the roll call for us. Tika, were you able to?
Tika's having some difficulties with her technology. So for the purpose of that, I'll go ahead and call the roll.
Okay.
Mr. Robert Garcia.
Here.
Keith King.
Present.
Janet Lawson Jackson.
Present.
Jack Fleer.
Here.
LaTanya Wright.
Here.
And who else do I have? Willie Clark.
Here.
And that is the roll of the attended board members, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Woodson.
If I could interrupt you just briefly, you said it was the Human Relations Board instead of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority Board of Directors. In case anyone from the public is listening.
I was sent an email and I was reading that off, so I should substitute that for, thank you for correcting that. Thank you. I said the Winston-Salem Board. So, moving on, as we always do, we have a little safety message. So, I always think about what to say for a safety message, and it seems like everything's been around, of course, this pandemic that we've now been in over a year. So my safety message to everybody is I hope that everybody has or will be receiving their shots. I know I'm still due up for my second one, after my first one. And just be aware of, we keep hearing a lot in the healthcare world about different side effects of the second shot. Some of you might have already gone through it, so I would caution you that it's good for us. The side effects are minimal. But there can be some, so don't worry about it. You will get over them, but there will be some. But in the long run, it's the best for all of us. So I would have to say that hopefully we've all gotten our shots, or at least well on our way. I've got to applaud, and we're going to talk about that later, but just the efforts here in our county and our city for everybody that's putting together these vaccination sites. So safety message for the day. Under public comment, we have a telephone number there for people that are interested in public comment to call in. Oh, I'm sorry. And for public comment, and from what I understand, I checked with Ms. Woodson prior to, no one, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Woodson, nobody has called in to join today's meeting for public comment?
That is correct.
Okay. Then we will move forward. And if I may, Ms. Woodson, and that is available to them on our website, that should they want to, they can just contact that number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll move over into the action items. So the first one is always is the approval of the previous board meeting, which was January 28th. Board members, those of you that have received, I'm sure all of you have received it and have hopefully have had a minute to look over them prior to the meeting. If not, let's just take a couple of minutes. If there's some that you want to maybe go back and see your notations about it or comments. So I'll give it a few minutes before we'll ask for a vote. Okay.
When appropriate, I will move their approval. I do have a couple of corrections to suggest, and I will send them.
Okay. Dr. Flair, thank you very much. And we always appreciate your sharp eye when it comes from an editing standpoint. Thank you. So we have a motion by Dr. Flair. Do we have a second?
Keith King, I second.
Mr. King, thank you very much for a second. So now we'll do much like the roll call for a vote. All those in favor of the approval of the January 28th minutes signify by saying aye. Aye, Robert
Aye.
Tim.
I, Keith King.
Aye, Willie Clark.
Hi, Jeanette Lawson Jackson.
Aye, Jack Flair.
Okay. I believe, let's see, did we get Miss Wright?
Ms. Wright says aye.
Okay, thank you. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone. The minutes from the January 28th meeting have been approved. Thank you very much. Next on the action items is a resolution approving the public arts project. We have a presentation. And I'd like to turn it over now to Ms. Woodson.
Good afternoon, board members and attendees of the board meeting today. We do have a presentation for from our Arts Commission, Mr. Kelly Bennett. He's going to present to you an idea for our Worcester bus shelters, and we'll ask after his presentation if you have any questions or comments. And then the staff, we're asking that you approve the resolution that's attached. So at this time, Kelly Bennett.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Donna, and thank you, board, for having me here. I am the staff person for the City County Public Art Commission. Many of you have heard me before when I came in 2020 to ask permission to use bus shelters for our artistic bus shelter program, which is still on view around the city. And we got an application for another project called Jukebox Therapy. Could advance the slide, please. So this is a pretty small project. The artist's name is Rhythm Bedell, and she started the project at Wake Forest University, and it has applied to expand it to bus shelters and Salem Lake Trail. We already took this to the Recreation and Parks Commission for the trail component. And we're here for the bus shelter component. This would be a 1-year project, and it would be paid for completely by the Public Art Commission. And next slide, please. So what it is would be basically a vinyl decal on 12 bus shelters around the city. She picked the bus shelters that already have the artwork. And it is an opportunity for people to kind of create musical playlists that they can listen to on their phone. And it's kind of a way to create community with people who take the same bus route or use the same bus shelter that you do. You can scan the little sign, the QR code, it'll bring you to the Spotify music app, and you can add songs to it and share those with people. So you can kind of create a playlist, kind of create a mood about, you know, for each different route and each different spot. The artist herself would approve the songs before they go onto the playlist. There'd be no charge to use this. You know, there's no copyright issues or anything like that. You know, it's pretty much just a way to connect people who all use the same bus shelter. And next slide, please. And then this is, this is kind of what the sign would look like. And it would be applied with vinyl, just like the other artwork, and it could be removed if it needed to be pretty easily. It just peels right off, but it can stay there for a year or more if you want it to. I believe that's my last slide. If you want to click through one more. Oh, no. This is what it would look like on your phone when you click through that QR code. It brings you to this website, and then you can click on, you can participate, you can listen to songs that other people have put in, and then you can explore different recommended songs, I guess, if you want to put them on there. And next slide, please. And then that was the last slide. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kelly, this is looks like a great idea. And you mentioned that there's no copyright infringements. Is there going to be any kind of advertising coming through this podcast?
There's probably some advertising in the Spotify app. If you're, if you're a subscriber or not, I think there's different levels. So if you're not paying for Spotify, you probably might hear commercials between the songs or something like that, like kind of like the radio. And if you do subscribe, it's probably commercial free.
Okay. And y'all have perused through the choices, and the reason I say this is because being associated with WISDA, if there was some maybe improper lyrics in certain music or anything that would tie us into that.
The artist had, before the song's post, it needs to be approved by the artist. So there's a human in between the song being requested and the song going onto the playlist, and she's agreed to not have songs with any curse words or things like that.
Right.
So it'll be family friendly.
Okay. Fellow board members, any questions?
Mr. Bennett, this is Jack Fleer. You said that it was easy to remove the placard. Does that mean that anybody who might have a less than supportive attitude can remove it?
Yep, that's that's one of the negative aspects of that. So yeah, if somebody wanted to remove it, they could peel it off. And it's the same material that the artwork is on the bus shelters. And I believe we have had some vandalism, but that was a broken window. Nobody has peeled off the actual artwork yet. So, but it's inexpensive, and I think if we saw them all disappear, we could reinstall them pretty inexpensively if that was the desire.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I just had one more. How are they going to, it said on there that they were going to make them maybe specific to the bus stop area.
Yeah, they were going to use the same color palettes as the artwork that is already there.
Okay. I didn't know if they meant by the selections of music.
Well, each person who adds a song, that'll be unique. It won't be there. It'll be 12 different playlists, one for each shelter.
Okay. Very good. Well, board, if we have no further questions, we will now seek for the approval. Do we have a motion to approve set resolution for the public arts project on our bus shelters?
I move.
Mr. King, thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
And Dr. Flair seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye in a roll call format. I will start. Robert Garcia, aye.
Keith King, aye.
Willie Clark, aye.
Jeanette Lawson Jackson, aye.
Jack Fleer, aye.
Latanya Wright, aye.
All those opposed, sign. All right, the resolution approving the public arts project on our bus shelters has been approved. We're stepping it up. So thank you very much for that. I think that'll be a nice addition. And
Wonderful.
thank you for your
everybody.
presentation, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move to our next resolution, the resolution approving the Transit Appeal Committee bylaws. Ms. Woodson?
Yes, this revision or update is to the Transaid Appeals Committee for our Transaid passengers. All of the passengers have rules and regulations that they are governed by according to Winston-Salem Transit's rule, as well as the city of Winston-Salem. And we have recently just made a couple of revisions to them. We wanted to bring it back to the board for approval of the revised and updated bylaws. This is just before any individual that is that wants to appeal the process of being their service being denied for a certain period of time due to a no-show where they have a scheduled trip and they do not take it and don't call in advance, and they have an accumulation of those no-shows. So it's defined in the actual appeals and all of those different scenarios of where they can have an issue with staff and they can be suspended for the service for up to 60 days or more if the services continue to be abused. So that's the committee bylaws, and just like I said, it was just a couple of modifications that were updated, and we wanted to bring it back before the board and ask for approval of the revisions.
Ms. Woodson, as far as the revisions on that, is that now, of course, through our committee, now, is that also goes through this our city through our attorneys, or?
Yes, the original bylaws went through let me back up. From what I've been acknowledged and told and informed that this policy, our assistant city attorney actually helped to create the bylaws. So they are part of the process in the beginning to help us to make sure that we are adhering to the ADA, FTA, and any rules that we have to be governed by through under DOT as well as ADA. So to answer your question, yes, sir.
Okay.
I think on the resolution itself, there needs bylaws is misspelled. It's BI and not BY. That needs to be corrected on the resolution itself.
On the resolution, it's actually on the actual bylaws. You said okay.
It should be BY.
BY. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I will revise that.
Thanks.
Good catch. Fellow board members, any further questions?
No.
Okay, if there are no further questions, do we have a motion to approve the resolution approving the Transit Appeals Committee?
Mr. Garcia, I have some
bylaws.
questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
No.
Oh,
Okay, in the resolution, I think the official title of Transaid is in the title of the resolution, the way it's spelled. But within the resolution, it is spelled differently. So there's one place where it's Transaid, and then there are several places where it's trans-A small ID. I think we need to be consistent in how we do that. And I understand that the official name of Transaid is the way it is in the title.
The aid is capital letters, I think, all caps, isn't it?
That's correct.
And okay, and you said that in the body of the resolution, there's is incorrect in the body.
Yes.
I'm not sure he means in just the resolution, but in the what's before that, before the resolution.
Okay.
I think that anytime trans aid is in either the explanation or the resolution, it needs to be consistent.
Yes,
Correct.
correct. Okay.
And I think it needs to be accurate also.
That, and you're correct. It does need to be consistent. It needs to be accurate and consistent. I apologize for that. That was on my behalf. So I will correct that and make sure that I make those changes accordingly.
I do see in the last sentence of the resolution, the aid is
Lowercase.
all capital.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
so that will be something I will change if you want to,
With the bylaws.
bylaws. Yes, I will make sure I take that and change it accordingly. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
And also today is the 25th of March, not the 25th of February.
It sure is.
Well, it was prepared for February meeting and we didn't meet, right?
Yes, and I failed to make that edit, but I will make that edit as well. We have several edits to this, so if we want to postpone this until the next meeting, I'm totally in agreement with that so that I can correct this and make it accurate. I have no
Okay.
problem with that at all.
Okay.
I'm
Very good
willing
call.
to approve it as long as those edits are made.
Ms. Woodson, if you're okay with that, because as stated, that was prepared for the February meeting that we did not have. Or would you prefer that we postpone this till the next?
I think that for the sake of accuracy and consistency, let's postpone it to the April meeting.
Okay. And thank you both for catching that. I'm sitting here straining my eyes. I'd read it when we said it, but I did. Yeah, good catches on that on the dates.
And it will probably be like that because we actually used our same agenda packet, and that's why that error is still there, because this was prepared, as you all know, it was sent out for the February meeting, and we used that same. So this may apply to a couple of the other resolutions that were actually already in the previous agenda for February. But again, I would prefer, for the sake of accuracy and consistency, to make those changes and then bring it back next month.
Okay. All right. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to the next resolution. Thank everyone for catching those edits.
Got the paper.
The next, we have a resolution authorizing a contract extension for security services. Now, I believe the one before, let's see, I think we have one before that. Ms. Woodson, the driver uniform vendor recommendations?
Yes. Okay, so as you all are aware, the drivers for Winston-Salem Transit Authority are union, and they do have to wear uniforms, and the uniforms are purchased through a contract by Winston-Salem Transit Authority for the operators to be in when they report to work. So the current contract was with D&E Harrison's uniform, and it actually, last year, the board approved an extension until March 2021. So the city of Winston-Salem's purchasing department had put out the bid for our uniforms, and we received 5 bids. Out of those 5 bids, the selection committee met on last Wednesday, the 17th, and the committee met and tallied up the scores. At the end of that scoring process, the selection was, the uniform company selected was Gals. Gals LLC is a uniform vendor that is out of Kentucky, Lexington, but they also have their warehouses all around. They have one as close as Charlotte, North Carolina. And in the bid that went out, that was advertised, any uniform company that was outside of our local area was advised that they would come in, and there were certain parameters that they would meet and requirements to make sure that the drivers are able to be fitted and measured, and they would be able to handle the flow of get inventory for supplying the uniforms to our operators. So GALS met the requirements by the determination of the selection committee, and we have brought this to you all on this afternoon to ask if you all would be amenable to approving this 1-year contract. And the contract time would be from April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. And we asked for the bid itself gives 2 option years. So if tonight we're just asking for 1 year approval, and then we would bring it back to the board again for either another approval for extension or another bid selection. Are there any questions?
I don't
Ms.
see-
Woodson,
Is the amount,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Fleer.
is the amount stated? I don't see the resolution.
We're still on the Transaid resolution.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you see it now?
We got it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Woodson, how often have we had to change uniform companies? Or how often do you try to update the uniforms?
The normal is normally under a 3-year contract, and 1-year contract with 2 option years. So I'm not certain as to how long D&E Harrison's has had the existing contract. I know they've had it for the last 3 years, and then 6 months that you extended it beyond those 3 years. So prior to that, I'm not sure if they were the uniform vendor or not. I do have staff on the call that may be able to answer that call. Mr. Crawford, are you able to answer that question as to how long Harrison's was with the uniform provider?
What you said, they've been with us for a while, probably the last 5 years, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Fellow board
So,
members,
Yeah, this is Keith King. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So when you get a new driver or new drivers, do they have to drive to Charlotte, or will this company come to Winston-Salem to outfit them? Or how does that process work?
They will be required to come to our office and to fit
Okay.
them and make sure that they, get their sizes, and they'll order them. They'll ship them here, and they are actually commit to having a person to come for the large orders. So the initial large orders, they will have people on site to receive them, and throughout the year, just for sporadic changes, or if an operator knows their same sizes, whatever, they have an online process that they can order their uniforms and get them shipped here,
Okay.
which is different from the current uniform provider. There's not an online option for them. They go, but they're local, so they can just go to the office.
Okay. Do they have any idea how long, let's say, for a couple of new drivers or something, how long the process would take to get them their uniform?
2 weeks,
Okay.
the maximum. They said a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
This is
Keith, you're
Jack
having to
Clear.
keep us up.
I'm
go ahead,
attempting
Dr.
to
Clear.
read the resolution. I don't see, and I think we normally have an amount when we have a contract. Is there one in there?
There's not an amount in there because it fluctuates. Because of the amount of pieces, we actually this contract asked for the piece amount, the dollar amount, but not for an overall, because it fluctuates because of new hires and anniversaries and different things when they actually get their uniform allotments. So there's not a dollar amount associated with this specific resolution. I will say that the current provider, their annual allotment is around 80,000 so far, has been previously. But for this time around, the price has increased significantly.
And this is a different provider.
Yes.
And what is the per person amount then?
Any operator, they get a allotment every July, an annual allotment every July for $400. Like
Each
$400.
person does?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
So this keeps you from having to keep a stock of uniforms ourselves.
Well, we don't actually keep a stock of uniforms right now. The only time we actually have them is if we, employees leave and we retain those
Okay.
uniforms, but we have an agreement with the union with that. So we don't actually keep a stock in-house internally.
Okay.
Excuse me, Donna, you may need to get an amount approved not to exceed.
Okay. So with that statement that Tanique just brought to light, because of the board's limitation, I know that the allotment won't exceed your limits of approval. However, it needs to state in the resolution itself not to exceed that amount. So I do need to put that in there.
And Tanique, would you mean not to exceed the $400 limit per person?
No, the 300,000 that the board is able to approve.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions?
I move its approval.
We have a motion to approve by Dr. Flair. Do we have a second?
Second, Jeanette Lawson Jackson.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye on the set resolution with set edits, approving a contract with Gals LLC for the new workers' uniforms for WISTA.
Mr. Garcia.
And a roll call. I'm sorry.
Yes, without the amount specified in there, I actually cannot ask the board to approve that until I get that in there and it's in writing. So again, we'll have to defer this resolution until the next meeting in April as well.
Okay. And
I withdraw my motion.
there we go. Okay, well, that's true, but we'll know this one when we come across it at our next meeting, and we will move forward on the resolution. Thank you.
Donna, is that going to prevent the contract start date of April 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm on a roll today for these errors. I apologize to the board for that and anyone attending. So the next resolution, I'm sure, will have an error as well with the date. So if we could go ahead and move to the mandatory mask policy, I believe that one should be accurate.
Okay, so we're going to skip over the resolution regarding the contract extension for North State Security.
Yes, because that was inclusive of the February packet as well. So the date on that one will be inaccurate, and I'd rather just go ahead and make sure everything is accurate without any errors, grammatical, spelling, or anything before I bring it back to the board.
Okay, good call on that, Ms. Woodson. And I would like to ask the board, take a look at those and knowing that that's going to happen. And if you see some edits, if we could send them in to Ms. Woodson prior to our next meeting.
Let me mention on that security services resolution, I assume it's not only the date of the resolution being adopted, but also the dates within the resolution. Although it could be that we're doing it post its effectiveness.
I'll take a look at that. It's not post the effectiveness, so if that's an error, then I will correct that as well. But this this is the final year of their third 3-year contract extension.
Yeah, the resolution says July 1, 2020, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, I'll take a look at it and correct it if that's
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With that said, Ms. Woodson, we'd like to move over to the resolution approving the mandatory mask policies. We have a couple of attachments to discuss.
Yes, so the attachments that you all were provided, hopefully you had an opportunity to look at the executive order and the guidelines that were issued through the TSA and the CDC as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic and the mask requirements. On February 1st, they issued an order, a guidance, security directive to all transportation agencies to implement a policy that requires all passengers that are riding public transit vehicles, as well as accessing the public transit facilities, that all patrons would have to have a mask on. And if they did not, they would have to, they could be asked to provide documentation as to why they are not able to wear a mask. So, and to be in compliance with that security directive, I have provided for the board the policy that Winston would like for the board to adopt at this evening so that we can enforce. And I've already spoken with security as far as this resolution is concerned. If it's approved, I will advise our North State security firm, and they will continue to enforce the mask, because we've been doing it anyway, but this just adds what they wanted to do was provide transit authorities with the language specifically from the executive order and CDC and TSA to have posted in their in our transit facilities as well as our vehicles to help with enforcement to passengers, so that people won't know, so the passengers and citizens won't think it's an internal or a local decision. This is a higher level decision and a mandate. So this is the request of the staff today, that you approve this mandatory mask policy and procedure. And the procedure basically is, as is identified in the attachments that was provided, that you, if anyone does not, that refuses to put a mask on or wear a mask and does not have the proper documentation as to why they can't wear it, then they could be asked, they could be denied service from the bus, the van, and or the transportation center.
Ms. Woodson, and noticing everybody that is continuing with the mask policies as they pertain to the North Carolina laws and so forth, are we putting up any revised signs in and around
Yes, we
the
have.
transportation center and on the buses?
Yes, we have. Anytime they come from our corporate TransDev, they send masks, they send the updated signs, and we, recycle them out. So we'll take down what we have and put those new ones up to keep up to date with the current directives, as well as when we receive directives like this from FTA or TSA, our marketing director, Tina Carson Wilkins, she will develop a flyer or such so that she can post it in the terminals as well.
Sorry, can you put that resolution up on the screen? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Woodson, this is Jack Fleer. This is a absolutely necessary resolution. I do recall when I was on a different commission and we were dealing with handicap parking, that there were a lot of questions about how people could come to be authorized to qualify for handicap parking. And given the fact that there is so much unfortunate, I'm going to use the word politicalization of masking, I wonder what kinds of safeguards we are using to determine that the excuse is a legitimate excuse.
It can be, that's a very valid point, Dr. Fleer. That can be abused. The only thing that we can ask for is, and what is actually inside of the guidance is a doctor's, something from their doctor stating that they cannot, it doesn't disclose what their issue is, but they are asked that the doctors give them some type of note that says that they are not permitted or not required to wear a mask.
Yeah, and that raises the question of what kind of doctors are appropriate to make these kinds of exceptions, because downtown Winston-Salem had an awful time with disability parking. I mean, we, WGHP of High Point took a camera to the area around the city hall, and we saw people just walking without any apparent challenge from their car to some office, sometimes the city hall, but others in the area. And it just almost made the downtown disability parking meaningless.
It is a challenge, and to be honest, if it's something that comes from the emergency room or someone's personal physician, we're not in a position to really challenge it. We just have to accept it, because, you know, we don't have any way of proving that it's legitimate, to be honest, other than if it's on a letterhead or something of that sort. But hopefully, you know, people won't go to that extent and they'll just comply with the rule and mask up. That's our hope, but it doesn't always happen that way.
I approve it and I wish you well, because unfortunately, this has become a very difficult issue in our society. As you well know, and every member of the board knows how difficult getting people to comply with masking has come.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Flair, and that kind of goes across the board when you see stores, restaurants, or your pharmacy that you walk into and you leave it up to an hourly employee to try to tell somebody to put one on. It gets a little tricky.
And my guess is that drivers are going to be put in a very difficult situation. But once again, I know the limits to what we have, so let's hope that it works. I move its adoption.
All right, if there's no further questions, board, we have a motion to approve the resolution approving the WISTA's mandatory mask policy and procedures. Do we have a second?
Keith King, I second.
Okay.
Mr. King, second. Thank you. All those in favor of the resolution approving the WISTA's mandatory mask policy and procedures signify by saying aye. Aye, Robert Garcia.
I, Keith King.
I, Willie Clark.
Aye, Jack Fleer.
I, Jeanette Lawson Jackson.
I, Latanya Wright.
All those opposed, same sign. Resolution approving the WISTA's mandatory mask policy and procedures has been passed. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and concerns. Definitely, this is one that definitely needs to stay in place. And thank you, Ms. Woodson.
Thank you.
A couple of things under old business.
Yes, we had a couple of things under old business, but it was, there's not an attachment to actually review. Basically, from the January 28th meeting, Dr. Fleer had a couple of questions that I promised that we'll get back with him on to the board on in our February meeting, but we did not have the February meeting. So the first question that you requested an answer to is was on the $15 minimum wage. We know that they have been, you know, politically, they've been going over and recommending a $15 minimum wage. But as we all know, I just wanted to make aware that it did not pass through Congress. So we're not held accountable for or held to that term of raising the $15 minimum wage. But to coincide with that, you would ask about the starting wages for our bus and van operators. So I wanted to provide that to you this evening. The TransAid drivers, their starting wage is $13.68. And fixed route starting wage is $15.52.
Would you say that second one again?
Yes, sir. Fixed route operators, their starting wages is $15.52.
Thank you.
So that was just information that I wanted to provide to you this afternoon as promised.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
This is
sir.
Jack Fleer. I know you said that it did not pass by the Congress, which that is true so far. It was taken out of the legislation before the legislation was approved. But I'm wondering how what WISTA does relates to what Winston-Salem city government does, and where we are on the city government's effort to provide a livable wage as it relates to WISTA.
So as it relates to WISTA, our operators as well as our maintenance department are unionized by Transit Worker Union Local 248, Transport Workers Union Local 248. So all of their wages are negotiated, and we're currently actually in our last year of the current contract, and so we will be negotiating wages and other benefits and everything else in our contract this year. So we're starting our union negotiations in a couple of months, and that new contract will go into effect July 1, 2021. So, and during that time, we negotiate wages, and that's governed by our budget as well with the city of Winston-Salem.
And do you know where the city now stands on the $15 minimum?
I do not know at this time.
Okay, I'll check with them. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Flair.
Okay, and the other, just a note of information, I just wanted to make the board aware that several months ago, you approved the radios installation, the new radio system, and we are proud to say that it is being installed now. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, all of our new radio system will be up and operating so that we won't have any coverage issues. We're able to test out this new provider and the vendor, and the coverage area was extremely well. I'm going to turn it over to John for a second. John Ashford, the AGM and the maintenance director. So he's going to just give you a brief summary of the new buses as well. And if you have any questions on the buses or the radio system, you can ask him at that time. John.
Okay, how's everyone? With the radios, we'll be sharing the radio tower system with the Forsyth County and City of Winston-Salem network. So they have full county coverage. So we'll be a part of that system. So that will really help us with our coverage area for radios. As far as the buses that are coming, we have 8 buses on order from New Flyer is the vendor. They're being built in Anderson, Alabama. They're scheduled to go online Monday, March 29th. We should see the first one come offline the first week of April. At that time, I'll be going down to inspect the first one and go over and make sure everything that we spec is correct, and anything after that could be corrected on the next 8 coming out. And that order is scheduled to be completed and all delivered by the end of May, and providing nothing happens. But we should have all of them on the property by the end of May.
Fantastic. Questions, fellow board members? John, thank you for all that. Thank you for all that you do in regards to that.
Yeah.
So this is Keith Ing. I do have a question for John.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you said you'll be going down to check out the first bus that comes off the line.
Yes.
If there's something wrong with that bus, then they'll have to correct it on the next 7 buses. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a full-time inspector hired, but normally just a normal practice that when we get them off the line, we have a lot of options on our vehicles. So we try to make sure that they did everything that we want, programmed it the way we want, to make sure everybody's on the same page. And once I go through that, then that inspector takes over from there and make sure the rest of them are the same.
Okay, so but they will fix the first bus the way that you
Yes,
need it to be done, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Ms.
All right.
Woodson, let's see, moving down to the services bus stops.
Yes. So over a year ago, I think prior to pre-COVID, we had brought to the board and to the city the some safety issues that we were having with our bus stops and the criteria that was still being used, that we wanted to make sure that that stopped. But prior to doing so and making sure that that we didn't have a lot of distance in between bus stops, we actually went out and solicited from the public as well as our drivers and supervisors, but places where we felt like we needed to add some bus stops. So over the past year, we have installed a total of 77 new bus stops throughout our routes. And effective on May 2nd, after the public is made aware, Worcester will be providing bus stop service at only Worcester bus stops only. So there won't be a criteria where, passengers will be picked up. They have to, if they want to utilize our services, they have to be at a Worcester bus stop. So just wanted to make the board aware that we have finished that project and that that will go into effect on May 2nd. Are there any questions about that?
Okay.
Okay.
There's no further questions. We'll move on to new business. I believe we have a presentation coming up by Ms. Marlene Davis with the DOT.
Yes, we do.
Discussing the disadvantaged business enterprise.
Good afternoon.
I think Ms. Davis is pulling up her presentation.
Yes.
Hey, Donna.
Yes.
Look, mine still say February the 25th. It's okay. Good afternoon. Okay, we ready?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chairman Garcia, fellow Worcester board members and staff. My name is Marlene Davis. I am the DBE liaison and the Title VI coordinator. Today, I will be providing an update on the city's disadvantaged business enterprise program, which was adopted by City Council on July the 6th, 2020. Next slide. The Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program is a USDOT program used to provide a small business owned and controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals a fair opportunity to compete for federally funded transportation contracts. Next slide. The DBE requirements are a for-profit small business, 51% owned by a socially and economically disadvantaged individual who controls the firm. African American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, Pacific, and subcontinental Asian Americas. Women are presumed to be socially, economically disadvantaged. The application process and certification is done by NCDOT. The next slide. The main objectives for the DBE program is to ensure that small business enterprise can compete for federally funded transportation related projects, to ensure that only eligible firms participate as DBEs, and also to assist DBE firms in competing outside the DBE program. Next slide. Who benefits? We all benefit. Next slide. When small business or firm becomes certified, they have an equal opportunity to receive and participate in the city's DBE program. Also, it creates a level playing field in which DBEs can compete fairly for DOT assisted contract with Worcester, our MPO, and also the city. Next slide. Okay, Winston benefits because it increases our DBE participation, and plus it helps us to reach our DBE goal, which is 6.9%. Also, it keeps us in compliance of our good faith effort and the federal and our DBE federal regulation. Next slide. So this question, what's the board members and staff can help the DBE program by supporting DBE firms and meeting DBE goals? One, educating and encouraging our contractors and suppliers and vendors on our DBE program and regulation. So we know that we need DBE participation. Second, just give them my contact information. I could guide them through it. I could talk them, help them out and help them get to that next level with the program. Okay, before you make a purchase or service with federal funds, check to see if small business are certified. If they're not certified, then you could check the NCDOT directory for the purchase and service that you need. And then you can see in red down here, that is the link. You can also Google NCDOT list, vendor list, and it'll come up too. Next slide. This is my contact information. I'm here to make sure that we are in compliance and make sure that I'm helping, everyone to know about the DBE program. Next slide. And y'all have any questions?
This is Jack Fleer. I think this is a marvelous consideration for Winston to make. Is the goal of your particular organization the same as, does Winston have a goal in terms of using?
Winston is the same goal as the city of Winston-Salem, so we are all combined together. That is correct.
Okay.
And this has been in place for some time. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember in a board meeting some years back, we discussed this very same subject about using certain vendors that are part of this program. Yes. Am I correct? It's still the same?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, so this is just a refresher that we are continuing to use these set vendors in this program?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Donna.
Do we have any idea how close we are to the goal on a regular basis?
Well, that's why we're trying to get DBE participation. So whenever we are spending regards to federal fund, that's why, I'm asking the board and staff to start looking at the DBE list. If that person is not certified, then go on the NCDOT list, and then we could get someone that's already certified. We could get that credit.
Donna, do you have any idea of how well we perform in terms of either meeting or approaching the goal?
Yes, sir. We're far from it right now. Currently, we do not have a lot of DBE participation. So that's why we have increased our outreach. We've asked Marlene to come. She's actually hosted a DBE presentation to some of our vendors. Ms. Tina has reached out to all of our vendors that we use for promotional items. So we're in the solicitation phase to make sure that we increase our participation in our DBE. Mr. Ashford has reached out to people like our landscaper. We talked with them, and they actually are eligible to be DBE because of they are minorities. So they just have to go through the process, and it's a lot of paperwork, and that kind of discourages people from doing that. But we're actually, Marlene and Tanique and myself, we're actually encouraging them to do so because it actually markets them. It provides a better market for them because they'll actually be able to go on the website for NCDOT, and other people that have needs can utilize their services as well. So we do not have an adequate amount of participation at this time, but we're working on that.
For example, in the contract that we just approved about, or I'm not sure whether they approved it or postponed it, but we talked about the one on uniforms.
Yes.
Were there any DBEs in that pool?
Unfortunately, no. And Marlene, the liaison, she was on that selection committee, and she was really looking and trying. We thought we had, because a couple firms did state that they were DBE certified, but once she did her investigation and look for the certification, they were actually not. And some people get HUD and DBE mixed up. So we did not have anyone that actually bid on the uniform contract that were DBE, and that was what we were potentially hoping for.
Well, thank you very much for your conscientious searching.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those questions. Yeah, it's a great program. Like she says, A, they got to participate, and then B, we make that a part of when we start searching for bids, and to give them an opportunity. And I agree with you, Dr. Flay. It's a great program. All right, we've got some expenditures update from the CARES Act as well.
Yes, can you see this CARES Act screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I'll go over this. I know it's 5:01. So basically, we all know previously we were, WISTA was granted $12,389,976 in funds from the CARES Act of 2020. And along the way, when we first were awarded this in March of 2020, we were able to go back and expense expenditures that were CARES Act related all the way from January to 2020. So I wanted to provide the board with an update of where we are with those funds and what has already been allocated towards the CARES Act total, and where we are, what we have left. So this actually identifies each category that we have used funds for, the funds from the CARES Act to support, and we're using it. We are at and for PPE, temporary cleaners, and all of the different categories listed. So I just want to provide that to you. You can hopefully you had a chance to look at that, and I'll entertain any questions about the balance or the funds spent.
I just have one suggestion in the line above the classification where the items are listed. It should be total spent and the estimated balance.
Okay. And I'll have a total spent once I get with the city finance department, because of the expenditures and how it's actually allocated and when the drawdowns come in. I have to work with the city on that. So I will be able to provide that detail in our April's meeting. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Certainly that those funds came in handy.
Yes.
Yeah, I see that, just the lost revenue and
yes.
By all means. All right. Well, if there's no further questions about that, the next thing we're going to talk about the vaccine.
Yes, sir. And I'll go over this quickly. With the vaccine transportation, we know that Forsyth County is offering vaccines at different sites. And DHHS awarded WISTA $57,364 to provide free transportation to the citizens of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, to make sure that transportation was not a barrier for anyone that needed to get vaccinated. So we have a process in place, and we're governed by the DHHS and the state to report all of our trips. So it has not been utilized a lot here. We do anticipate that demand to increase. So we've met with other transportation providers just so that we can make sure when the categories open up for any and everyone to be vaccinated, we can handle the flow of the transportation needed. So Tanique and I met with some other transportation providers this afternoon to prepare for that. So currently we're handling it in-house. We have a vaccine transportation line where a passenger or citizen can call in to and request that through the staff that's dedicated for those for that transportation system, and they are scheduled with our TransAid drivers currently. But as I said earlier, when we get to that point, we are prepared to dedicate vehicles for vaccine transportation and send other trips out to outsource them to other transit agencies, local transit agencies. So that is, and this is just the media release that Tina put out when to announce it. There's been radio ads that she's put out. We've had television ads just to make sure we get the word out, and it's heavily advertised. So all of Forsyth County will know that Worcester is providing this service to them at fare free due to the DHHS funds. Are there any questions on that?
I could have sworn I saw maybe the first ad that I've seen in the local paper this morning, if I'm mistaken. I really liked it. The green, yeah, it was really sharp. It really caught my eye, and I thought, hey, I just started applauding it when I saw the ad. So certainly to get everybody to the vaccination sites. Thank you for that.
Yes.
It's
Questions
definitely
about
on,
that?
it's definitely on Facebook too, because I've been seeing it for weeks.
Very good.
Yes, Miss Tina, our marketing director, you all know she's going to make sure it's heavily advertised. If it's got to do with advertising, she's going to get the word out.
That's right.
And,
So let's see.
So if there's no more questions, the other thing that I wanted to point out, and we'll entertain any questions from any informational staff reports if you have any, was this this came up in conversation, I believe, with Dr. Fleer about the food pantries and access by Worcester to the food pantries to make sure that people that had needs for additional food that they could not obtain on their own, that they had access to get free food at the banks or the food pantries that in Forsyth. So I just presented a list of staff worked on this to make sure that we had identified all the routes, fixed routes that provided service to the food pantries and the banks, and TransAid provides services to all of the locations that are listed on here for Forsyth. So we tried to make sure that we got all of them. We may have missed a few, or they may have missed a few because staff did this, I didn't. So hopefully we have identified each one of them, and the ones that have the green check are locations where the bus stop is not specifically right there in front of the location, but is within a quarter of a mile from the location. Are there any questions?
Ms. Woodson, this is Jack Flair. I really do appreciate your following up on this, and I understand that Mr. Garcia also has relationships with Second Harvest Food Bank, or whatever it's called. I think it's Second Harvest Food Bank.
Yes, Second Harvest.
And I
Food
wanted
Bank.
to make sure, I think you did say that you felt that this was a complete list of the pantry and food banks for our Forsyth County service area?
Yes, I Googled it, and so I Googled what I did, and then staff, I had the mobility management and ADA department, as well as operations, to fill in the gaps of places that I did not identify through my search and through the facilities that TransAid actually offers us, provides service to. Because even during COVID, the early onset of COVID, TransAid was making trips and just waiting for passengers to get their food from the banks and then taking them right back, so they wouldn't have to have a double trip. They would just go pick up their food and go back home.
That is really wonderful. I do wonder, well, I guess it's a question. So that means that we have both the option, or they have the option of using a fixed route where that's available, but they can also call TransAid.
If they are TransAid riders, if they're approved to ride TransAid, yes, sir.
I see. They have to be approved by the TransAid riders.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's an important clarification. Thank you ever so much. I just think that providing people with food is probably the highest priority that we can help in transportation, particularly in this time of really stressed and great need. So I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one question. I was thinking that TransAid took clients to the Clemens Food Pantry, and I don't see Clemens Food Pantry on there.
And we may, like I said, I'm thinking we're hoping that we made sure we located all of them. I don't know. I can't say that we do offer services to the Clemens Food Bank, but I can check and find out.
Okay.
Okay. And
Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Garcia, if
Woodson,
there's
for
no
looking
other
that up.
questions or
That's really
concerns,
good.
as it relates to the informational items or the staff reports, we can, because the time is 5:10.
Okay. And with respect to everybody's time, we'd like to, if you have questions in regards to the staff reports after reviewing them, please send them in to Mrs. Woodson. And we will discuss them at the next meeting along with, I think we had one informational item that we can also cover at the next. So as Ms. Woodson stated, we are running a little over on time. We respect everybody's time. We'd like to apologize for having to postpone some of the resolutions. We're not without fault.
No, definitely not.
It's at least we caught them. We will correct them and we will bring them forward to everybody.
Yes.
Fellow board members, before we bring this meeting to adjournment, are there any comments, questions? How about from our city, from the city of Winston-Salem, all of our fine members there? Any questions or comments?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanique. As always, we appreciate the work of Ms. Woodson, the staff for everything that they do and the unbelievable job that they've done through this pandemic. I mean, you just staying on top of it. Every time, I will tell you, board, every time I speak to Ms. Woodson, she's got her hands full, but she's got a great staff behind her and the support, and join me in applauding them and the job that they've done in keeping our drivers and our staff safe. We've had a couple of issues there, as most businesses have had. We're no different than any other business, and probably even more at risk per se than a lot of businesses, with the fact that we deal with the general public pretty directly on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for everything that you do. Well, with that said, I'd like to wish everybody a safe and healthy rest of the week. It looks like it's raining outside now, so if you're traveling, remember that it is raining. I think we got rain for the next few days. Ms. Woodson and everyone, thank you for all that you do. And with
Thank you all.
Thank you, and happy Easter to everybody.
yes,
Happy
you're
Easter.
very
That's
right.
right.
Happy
We got
Easter
the
to
mix.
everybody. All right. Thank you, everyone, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.